Good evening. I call to order this March 24th, 2026 meeting of the Blair Mayor and City Council. I am Mindy Rump, the Mayor of Blair, and I'm pleased that you have joined us this evening. This is a public meeting, and you are part of the process. I encourage you to participate, ask questions, and share your thoughts. I do want you to feel comfortable, and I will do everything that I can to make sure that your voice is heard. We do have several rules to help us proceed with this meeting, and I ask that you please keep them in mind. Please turn off your cell phones. If you need to take a call, step outside the chamber. When you wish to speak, simply raise your hand and I will acknowledge you and you can come forward to the podium. Brenda Wheeler, our city clerk, must record who you are. So please state your name when you come to the podium, spell your last name, and state your address. Keep your remarks brief, about 3 minutes, so that others have the opportunity to speak. And please, this is very important, direct your comments to either myself, city council, or to city staff. A copy of the Open Meetings Act has been posted by both exits, and we will begin this evening with the roll call of members.
Banner?
Here.
Paulson?
Here.
Wong?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Willis?
Here.
Clark?
Here.
Fletcher?
Yep.
Heifel?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 4, approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please register your vote.
Okay.
Oh, it says. Oh, that's last week's.
All council members present voting aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Item number 5, I'll open a public hearing to consider receiving public comment on a blight and substandard study for an area located within the extraterritorial jurisdiction and corporate limits of the city of Blair, and to consider whether to designate such areas as blighted, substandard, and in need of redevelopment pursuant to the Community Development Law, Nebraska Revised Statute, Sections 18-2101.
Hi, Mayor.
Mr. Green. I'm just making sure that are we all logged in?
I think so. Getting close to it.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, Phil Green, City Administrator. Just to let you know, these two items, this one and the very next item, are both related. This one specifically is about receiving public comments regarding the presentation that's going to be made here in just a second. So Jeff Ray is here. He's our consultant who did the blight and substandard study for us. I'll start off by simply saying nobody likes the word blighted, but it's the way the state statute reads. It's the language that's required statutorily. We'd love to call it something else, but this is the language that you have to go through. And again, ultimately the process that we're doing is that you would do this blight and substandard study to see if the area that's being investigated qualifies to be declared as blighted and substandard. And if it is, that simply then means that it becomes part of the redevelopment district for the city of Blair, and therefore is an area that is eligible for TIF projects if those TIF projects would come forward. And so Jeff has done the vast majority of our studies over the years, so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Ray, let him do the presentation. As soon as he's done, it'll be time for public comment, so if anyone wants to get up and talk about it, that will be this particular agenda item. And then once you're done, Mayor, receiving any public comment, you can simply close the public hearing for this, and then you'll move on to the next item, which will be the actual action by the council, and you can discuss it at that point in time. So thank you. Jeff.
Madam Mayor and Council, again, Jeff Ray with Ray Planning Solutions, sub-consultant to JEO Consulting. Just kind of switch in the middle there, but fulfilled the obligation still. So Phil kind of took part of my talk here. So I'm going to talk, excuse me, I don't have much of a voice. I was in Oklahoma City on Saturday, so I had a lot of fun, but I didn't come back with much voice. So I'll do a little introduction. What is a blight study? Why do we do it? Some of the stuff that Phil had talked about. What was the study area? Kind of why we chose that area with staff. what were the analysis and findings, and ultimately what is the recommendation then. So in the introduction, here we go. It's again, this is part of the Nebraska Community Development Law. When this was passed in the 1970s, it needed a referendum to go to the people of the state to amend our Constitution. The words blight and substandard are in there, so to change it, it's a huge lift to go back and change that. So we have a really ugly name for an economic development tool, but that's the statute that we have to follow. So that's what we end up doing. So as Bill said, the process really is we go through an area, you declare it blighted and substandard. In other words, does it have the criteria that the state statute defines as blighted and it defines as substandard? Once that's been done, then you can entertain development or for a redevelopment plan, and those projects can come forward before you. It would need a similar process with public hearings at Planning Commission as well back here with you at City Council. And then ultimately you can issue tax increment financing, or in some cases you can get community development block grant if you're doing a downtown revitalization, which you have previously done. So some of those characteristics that I'll summarize from the state statute, this is a couple of pages, are to be a substantial number of deteriorating structures, unsanitary and unsafe conditions. There's a deterioration of the site improvements. There's stable or decreasing population. Average age of structure is 40 years or older. Economic and social liability is detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. There's a diversity of ownership. Improper subdivision or obsolete platting. 1/2 of the land is unimproved property. It's been in the city for over 40 years. There's a high density population overcrowding, and there's special tax assessments. Again, that's a summary of the blighted characteristics. And then a summary of the substandard characteristics are similar: dilapidation, deterioration, age, or obsolescence of structures, dangerous conditions to life or property due to fire or other such causes, inadequate provision for light, ventilation, air, open space, and sanitation, defective, unusual condition in title, unemployment is greater than 120% of state or national average, and the per capita income is less than the citywide average. All of the pictures and everything that were in the study, as well as what I'm showing here tonight, are simply just meant to support the study. It doesn't mean the city needs to do anything in regards to any of those or try to shame any property owner or business owner. So the study area that we looked at, you can see is delineated here in the magenta area. So we looked at areas that have potential to be redeveloped or developed, and areas that have some of those characteristics that we're trying to eliminate. Overall, it's 107 acres. That's 2.6 acres of your corporate limits. And the reason that's important is because you're limited to 35% of your corporate limit that can be declared blighted and substandard. It doesn't mean that it has to be inside the city limits, but of your total corporate limits, you can only have 35%. This brings, should you pass this, it would bring you up to about 27%, so there's still some area for additional blighting should you need it, or you could de-blight. So the analysis and findings, I'll summarize from what's in the report, found that 30% of the structures were rated as deteriorating or dilapidated. The map on the left, you can see some of the markings that were in there with the little circles. If it got an orange or red marking, then it was dilapidated or deteriorating. The general way to think about this is something that a normal business owner or homeowner wouldn't be able to do in their normal maintenance. So if it needed a contractor to replace windows and siding and roofing, those types of things, that's what throws into that deterioration. If it gets into the dilapidated, it's on the border of being uninhabitable. We looked at the transportation network. It's not just the roads, but also how the roads have curb and gutter or don't have curb and gutter, how they convey the water in the storm sewer system. That's part of that first piece of that. As we know, stormwater is a big part of our community, as well as sidewalks. So much of the area did lack the stormwater conveyance system as well as sidewalks, and most of the roads were rated then as a fair condition. There were some lots that we looked at, some odd-shaped lots, very skinny, long flag lots that had odd shapes to them to make it unbuildable. One U-shaped lot. Some of them are narrow and very deep. That makes it difficult to develop those types of lots. And then some of them were just too large and need some additional subdivision to take place for urban development to take place of commercial and or industrial that would be in this particular area. We looked at potential things for unsafe conditions. Obviously, there's a floodplain there, both the 100 and the 500, and you're well aware of where that is. There were notations of debris piles. Debris piles can harbor vermin and rodents that can carry disease to animals and or humans, as well as be a fire hazard to some of the local properties and structures. Age and obsolescence of the structures was noted. Some of those that are older or prior to 1978 could potentially contain lead paint and other hazards to people. There was noted of some overgrowth in areas where could be potential for fire hazard to take place and spread in there, as well as some poor site conditions where there were maybe unimproved properties where just was gravel, contained areas where there was erosion and or rutting that held water that could potentially harvest mosquitoes out of there, and so forth. So here's some of those examples, some of the pictures. Looked at the age of the structures. Again, the age of the structure is age of the structure of residential or age of structure of commercial. There's one house in here. It's noted it was 135 years old, so well over the 40 years that the state requires set up. Overall, when we do this in the GIS, then we make those markings on each lot, and then we turn them all on at the end to say, okay, where are all of these characteristics, to ensure that we're not including a whole bunch of area that doesn't have any characteristics. So every parcel contained at least one characteristic of blighted and or substandard. So they are dispersed throughout the study area. So our recommendation was that 8 of the 12 blighted criteria were found and to be present here, and 3 of the 4 substandard characteristics. There's not a set number. Some communities go as low as 4 that say that's substantial enough for us to declare this area blighted substandard. You don't have to hit all of them, and it's meant to be looked at as a district, not as each individual parcel. The state Supreme Court has been very clear on that piece of it. So our recommendation would be that the study area as a whole would be declared blighted and substandard. I'll leave that picture up for anybody, and then I'll take whatever questions you have now, or I can take them later.
Why was it determined at this time that this is something that needs to be done, rather than maybe incorporated into the coming development plan?
Yeah, so our staff had reached out to Jeff and JEO originally to request them to do this. There really is no set plan on when this should be done. This is an area, though, where a couple lots had been looked at by various developers. One of the questions they usually ask is this eligible for TIF? This area had not been in a redevelopment district before, so we felt like now was a good time to have it evaluated. There's several other areas that are already in this part of the community that are in a redevelopment district. This particular area was not.
Okay, so I don't know for myself that just because some businesses are interested in acquiring TIF, that's a sufficient purpose for declaring this a blighted area. Some of the reasons, because I did actually read the report, talk about the sidewalks and so on. It's really not a residential area. I don't think that sidewalks are necessary. The house of the 135-year-old, the picture of the 135-year-old house is already scheduled to be demolished, and that lot's going to be developed into a storage facility, which we've already voted on. I don't quite see the necessity at this time, and we're already digesting the recent annexation. We already have other areas that are 20-something% that are of the city that's declared blighted, that could also be developed before we tack on another 2-something% to that. I really would like to see something that makes this a critical task now, rather than maybe being rolled into the future development project. That's just my opinion.
Sure. And just a reminder, though, that this is one of the tools potentially that's available for the city for redevelopment. And if it's not in a redevelopment district, it doesn't qualify for TIF. So.
Any other questions for Jeff?
I guess along with Gary's comment, the little cutout part with the cul-de-sac there in the middle, why it wasn't included in all that when you're including, like, the,
It's already in a redevelopment district, so.
with the Taylor Quick Pick out there, the McKinnis Roofing, Monsanto and all those, how they're considered as blighted areas. I was just kind of curious how they fall into that.
This area right here is already in an existing district.
All right, but yeah, there's some other buildings over on the far left side of that yellow area, those 3 lots there, or 4 lots, from the turn down. I was just kind of curious why those would be considered blighted.
And again, I think Jeff had mentioned, ultimately what the state statute allows is you look at an area and you take the whole area in its totality, not just individual lots. So it's really not, even though he looks at every lot, chronicles every lot, ultimately your decision doesn't need to focus on a lot by lot analysis. It's really an analysis of the area and your judgment on whether that area is worthy of being in a redevelopment district and therefore qualifying for TIF.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Any comments from the public? Brenda, have we any comments in writing? Thank you. I will close the public hearing. Item number 6, consideration of and possible action of resolution 2026-20, approving the blight and substandard study designation of East US Highway 30 industrial area. As Mr. Green discussed, this is what we're deciding upon based on the previous agenda item.
I'll introduce resolution 2026-1.
Resolution number 2026-20 was introduced by Councilmember Letcher, approving the blight substandard study designation of the East US Highway 30 industrial area.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2026-20 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-20. Please register your vote.
Council members present voting aye. Clark, Highfield, Letcher, Long, Paulson, Willis. Councilmember Banner voting nay.
Motion passes. Item number 7, open public hearing to consider a rezone application submitted by the City of Blair, 218 South 16th Street, Blair, Nebraska, for lots 19, 20, and 21, Block 56 in the City of Blair, Washington County, Nebraska, together with that part of Vic Street right-of-way at Branch Street, otherwise known as 1526 and 1516 Branch Street, an empty lot on the northwest corner of Grant and 15th Street. Rezoning the lots from RMH, multifamily residential high density district, to CCB, central business district. Mr. Byerman.
Good evening, council. Good evening, Mayor. Jeff Fireman, Community Development Director, City of Blair. A couple items carried over from Planning Commission are a couple rezoning. First one, located right here in Midtown, actually would be the lots to the southeast of City Hall. Right now, as the mayor said, currently RMH. The one house on the 3 lots was converted over into an office, actually housing the community development department right now. Future land use already has those 3 lots as to be used for commercial. So there was no having to change the future land use map. It was already designated quite some time ago as commercial property. We did decide to make the request to CCB, which is the neighboring districts next to us. I talked to the bank, stopped over there, and said, hey, this is what we're doing. They had no issues about that. One lot, of course, owned by the city's parking lot, and then the next is the annex. And a couple of people did call about the 3 lots again, parking lot here, the current annex, and then a lot by the bank. As soon as they found out it really had nothing to do with their house or the property, they were fine. Again, showing future land use map, or commercial in there. RMH is what it is now, would be part of this area in here. CCB is the current zoning. Again, this was the future land use map here. If it passes, this would become part of the central business district. Those two parcels of houses, nothing to do with this at all. Let's see. Right here, permitted uses in RMH, single family, mostly residential, condominiums. As under CCD, we have offices, retail stores, and again, the row crops if we need. Sorry. Picture of lots. This is the bank lot, the annex, the empty parking lots. With that, any questions for staff?
Thank you. Do you have any comments from the public?
Good evening, council. My name is Jennifer Reslick, R-E-Y-Z-L-I-K, address 141 East Fairness Drive. First of all, thank you for your service. I attended the Planning Commission meeting on March 3rd where the rezoning of Lot 21, Block 56 was discussed. I spoke specifically about the corner lot at 15th and Grant, for this picture, and I was asking what the lot was going to be used for, whether it was a parking lot, new city hall, et cetera, et cetera. I was kind of provided no answer. I just kind of smile and we have a plan. I specifically asked if that lot would ever be for sale since Washington County Bank currently owns the lot. I know of people who are interested in possibly developing that lot into housing, specifically a duplex or triplex, which supports your housing recommendations outlined in the 2015 10-year comprehensive plan. As the dialogue continued at that planning commission meeting, between the planning commission, city officials, and myself, I was told that if this was rezoned to CCB, central business, that a CUP would need to be submitted for permission to build housing. I've since spoken with Washington County Bank on their intent of what they want to do with this lot. But it kind of got me thinking more. So this corner lot, as well as the lot next door where the house is sitting, which is 1516 Grand, it's currently zoned residential, according to the assessor's office. So, and the city of Blair purchased that home in May of 2025. As he pointed out, since then a handicap ramp was built, city cars have been parking there, city workers have been using it for like permits and code enforcement now. So when I looked at what is permitted for RHM versus the CCB, and you apply it to this house at 1516, I have a few questions. So if you could educate me or clarify some things. Did the city need to apply for a CUP for 1516 grant? And if so, did the city apply for a CUP for that house, which is zoned residential, to be used as a city office, which needs to be CCB?
Yeah. The reality is the city doesn't have to abide by zoning regulations. We oversee those zoning regulations, but as an entity that is has the power of eminent domain, you end up being exempt from your own regulations.
Okay.
So we knew that this was something that we wanted to work on. It's been busy. We finally got around with slow months in the winter
Okay.
coming forward with this rezone. So that had always been the plan, to request the rezone. But ultimately, technically, the city doesn't have to abide by its own rules when it comes to zoning regulations.
I
mean, it's not just the city. I mean, the county's the same way. When the county built, added onto their building down there and added the radio tower. Normally, that wouldn't be allowed in a residential district, but because of the fact the counties have eminent domain authority as well, U.S. statute basically says that they don't have to abide by those zoning regulations. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess I want to understand that the city has rules to follow, that the city follows the rules, because the expectation is that the residents of Blair follow the same rules. So I just want to make sure that there's fairness and it's clarified. So thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the public?
Heath Reslick, R-E-Y-Z-L-I-K, 141 East Baronage. Thank you, council and mayor, for our time. I want to address that same lot, and Phil, you brought up eminent domain, and there's a plan, and that's what we've been told. Well, I've heard from very credible people that the plan is to expand the South Fire Station and take the insurance office, buy eminent domain, and expand, and put the insurance office in that lot. So, that's my 2 cents, and that's, if there's truth to it, I'd like to hear it. If there's not, I guess I'm asking.
There is no plan. I couldn't say that it wouldn't maybe happen. It wouldn't happen by eminent domain.
There's
The bank's already told us that they're willing to have the building moved. So,
They have,
yes,
because I spoke with Dave Bladwick today and said it is not for sale.
and again,
It's not for sale,
yeah.
but we have talked to the bank as well.
Okay.
They would consider moving it if that's a way, direction we wanted to go.
But I guess I was asking about the South Fire Station expansion. I've heard there's drawings of drive-through bays.
No drawings, no plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments from the public? Brendan, do we have any comments in writing? Thank you. I will close public hearing. How would council want to proceed?
I'd like to introduce ordinance 2607.
An ordinance rezoning tax maps 19, 20, 21, block 56 in the city of Blair, Washington County, Nebraska, together with the vacated street right away at Branch Street rezoning lots from R MH multi-family residential high density district to CCD special business district, repealing all orange farmers complex areas, providing enforcement of full force effect and ordinance published in pamphlet form.
Move the statutory rule regarding a meeting on 3 different days be suspended for consideration of said ordinance.
Second. Question.
Question for the council is, shall the statutory rule requiring reading on 3 different days be suspended? Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye. An ordinance rezoning tax lots 19, 20, 21, block 56 in the city of Blair, Washington County, Nebraska, together with the vacated street right away at Branch Street rezoning lots from RMH multi-family residential high density district to CCD central business district, repealing all orange conflict areas, providing this ordinance should be published in full force effect and order published in pamphlet form.
Move final passage of ordinance 2607.
Second. Question.
The question now before the council is, shall ordinance number 2607 be passed and adopted? Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
I declare ordinance number 2607 duly adopted. Item number 8, to open a public hearing to consider a rezoning application submitted by the city of Blair, 218 South 16th Street, Blair, Nebraska, for tax lots 197, 199, and 200, Section 13, Township 18 North, Range 11, all east of the 6th prime meridian, Washington County, Nebraska, otherwise known as 10024, 10070, and the contiguous outbuildings on 10196, all in County Road P35, rezoning all lots from A, Agricultural District, to TA, Transitional Agricultural District. Mr. Byron.
Thank you. This is item left over from our annexation some while ago, located here on P35. You can see this little blip of the new corporate boundary is the 3 lots that we were dealing with. At the time of the annexation, we did inform the 3 homeowners there that there would be kind of zoning change. Ag is 10 acres, they could still make the move over. Probably would have been contiguous with maybe RM, but we weren't quite sure yet. And to be honest, we were in no hurry to change it over yet. One has horses on it, they would still been able to use it, we were just kind of waiting. The idea of maybe doing the transitional ag was just being floated, so we decided to take our time. Again, when we made this choice to finally come through with the zoning, we did talk to, or attempted to talk to all 3 homeowners. Mr. Solano, I talked with on the phone, he knew that it was coming. He was happy to know that he was being transitional ag rather than RM, which would have been the lowest density residential. The TA transitional ag was kind of a perfect thing to move them into it for now. They are also where someday it will be probably moved into a residential low density. So get on with that. Currently ag, and we want to move those 3 parcels into transitional ag. Future land use map does designate residential use. What happens now is to form all of these single-family dwellings, a lot of these under permitted uses are really kind of narrowed down into still farming, raising crops, single-family irrigation, and then the signs. Everything before that would have been, you need more things like cow lots, cow yards, things like that, would have been by CUP. On this part now, those are kind of taken out. It's that area next to the city, and it's actually inside the city now. So we also made some changes to allow for animals, to allow transitional ag in there. But another area just, as we start to expand, also kind of watching what may be coming in the future. Future land use map, these are the 3 lots that we're talking about. Shows that it is residential. Right now we have commercial across the road. We have RL right here. I said RM before, it was RL, which is residential low density. This is out of city limits. This is what we brought into. This was already zoned RL before it was brought into the city. Right now, this would be transitional ag. We have ag down here, TA. Someday this may end up if there's an annexation in the south, they'll probably be brought into a transitional ag also. Again, for now, this was a good fit. They're still allowed to do anything they were doing for under ag because of the grandfather rights, if you want to call them that. So the house here does have horses and out farms on that. That's not going to change. Even under TA, it doesn't change for them. Brought into the city, we did make, again, we made adjustments to what can be the city. So their lots now are even in their transitional ag with livestock or horses are completely legal. P35 showing this way. This shows the one lot here with the horses and the outbuildings. And I guess that's the only photo there. The other 2, again, were residential homes. I did talk, I said Mr. Solano did leave, also letters explaining, hey, you know, talk about this, give us a call. Never heard anything back about it. Any questions for staff on this?
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Brendan, do you have any comments in writing? Thank you. I will close the public hearing. How would council like to proceed?
I'd like to introduce ordinance number 2608.
An ordinance rezoning tax lot 197, 199, and 200, section 13, township 18, north range 11, all east of 6 p.m. and city of Blair, Washington County, Nebraska, rezoning lots from AG, agricultural district to TA, transitional agricultural district, repealing all ordinances or passed ordinance in conflict herewith, providing this ordinance will be full force and effect, and ordinance will be published in pamphlet form.
I move the statutory rule regarding reading on 3 different days be suspended for consideration of said ordinance.
Second.
Question?
The question before the council is, shall the statutory rule requiring reading on 3 different days be suspended? Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye. An ordinance rezoning tax lots 197, 199, and 200 in section 13, township 18, range of 18 north, range 11, all east of 6 p.m. in the city of Blair, Washington County, Nebraska, rezoning the lots from AGG, general agricultural district, to TA, transitional agricultural district, repealing all ordinance part of ordinance conflict herewith, and providing this ordinance to be full force and effect, and ordinance to be published in pamphlet form.
I move final passage of ordinance number 2608.
Second.
Question?
The question for the council is, shall ordinance number 2608 be passed and adopted? Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. I declare ordinance number 2608 duly adopted. Item number 9. We have a request to appear before the mayor and city council by Baylor Vera, seeking approval of his Eagle Scout project on public property. Good evening, Mr. Vera.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Baylor Barrow, B-A-R-R-O-W, and I live at 10738 Oak Park Lane. I'm a 17-year-old Life Scout with Arlington Troop 145, working toward the rank of Eagle Scout. To earn this rank, I'm required to plan, develop, and lead a service project that provides a meaningful and lasting benefit to the community. I'm here this evening to respectfully request authorization to complete my Eagle Scout service project in partnership with the City of Blair. Our proposed project is a downtown beautification and recycling project, completed under the guidance of Ms. Betsy Anderson, Master Gardener and the President of the Blair Parks Board. The purpose of this project is to transplant overgrown decorative plants from locations along Washington Street to the new art alley downtown. Several decorative plantings downtown have become overgrown and require maintenance. Rather than removing and discarding these plants, this project focuses on reusing and relocating them to enhance public green space in the city. By moving these plants to areas such as Art Alley, we can add natural beauty to spaces where families gather, events are held, and visitors experience play. As our nation approaches its 250th birthday, this project contributes in a small but meaningful way by improving community gathering spaces. Beautifying these public areas helps prepare them for events, visitors, and celebrations that bring our community together. I'll lead a team of approximately 4 to 8 volunteers, including scouts, parents, and community members. All plant selections and planting sites will be approved in advance, and transplanting will follow best practices under Ms. Anderson's direction to help ensure long-term success. I previously worked as a summer employee in the City of Blair Parks Department, which has given me a strong appreciation for our parks and the staff who maintain them. That experience has taught me the importance of safety, planning, and maintaining city standards. And I'm applying these lessons to this project. Adult supervision will be present at all times. Volunteers will receive safety instructions, and we will only dig approved areas using hand tools. All sites will be cleaned and restored once work is complete. I respectfully request approval from the City Council to move forward with this project. Thank you for your time, leadership, and continued commitment to keeping Blair a community we are proud to call home. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
How long
Yes.
do you think this will take?
Hmm?
How long do you think this project will take?
It should take us only one day, depending on the weather.
Good.
How soon do you hope to have this in play?
Hopefully we have this completely done by the summer.
Any other questions?
How many volunteers you got?
We're expecting to have about 4 to 8.
That's worked out.
Mr. Barlow, I commend you for undertaking this endeavor, and I wish you tremendous success in doing so.
Thanks, sir.
Would you like to put that in motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Mr. Barrow's Eagle Scout request. It's been brought before the City Council.
Second.
We have a motion a second to approve Baylor Barrow's Eagle Scout Downtown Beautification Project. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Thank
Good
you,
luck.
nice job.
Congratulations.
And thank you to you, Mrs. Anderson. Item number 10. Excuse me. Presentation by the Blair Historic Preservation Alliance regarding improvements to the depot.
Paula Nielsen, 102 Courtview Drive. Nielsen is spelled Nielsen.
John Stewart, 1034 North 27th Street. Talking to this mayor.
Can you hold on a second, just a second? I'd like to receive and place on file the bid received by the Blair Historic Preservation Alliance to finish the floor on the west side of the depot.
We have a motion a second to receive and place on file the bid to refinish the floor at the depot. Please register your vote.
Councilmembers present voting aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mayor Rump. Thank you, members of the City Council. As president of the Blair Historic Preservation Alliance, I'm here tonight to specifically talk about the depot. However, I'd like to provide a little context and celebrate an anniversary first. 25 years ago, in March 2001, I came to a City Council meeting in this chamber. Mick Mines was mayor at the time. I came with my mother-in-law to voice concern and opposition to a proposal in front of the City Council at that time to tear up the bricks on Grant Street and to replace that road surface with concrete or asphalt. It turned out we weren't the only Blair citizens who opposed this idea, as several people spoke up at that evening. After the meeting was over, this disparate group of people gathered at the back of the chamber and agreed we needed to band together to fight the destruction of any brick streets in Blair. A couple weeks later, the group met at Ed and Shirley Jipp's home, and the Blair Historic Preservation Alliance was created. Ed Jipp, Tom Cranda, and Louis Napolini were selected as officers, and as often happens to English teachers, I became the secretary. Mayor Mines created a Historic Streets Committee composed of City Council members, city staff, and we members of the BHPA. Those meetings were contentious, to say the least, and little progress was made. So our relationship with the city of Blair had a rocky start. But as in any relationship, although we have annoyed each other, we often found ways to work together over the last 25 years. Our most successful collaboration, I would say, occurred in 2007. Matisse and Grain Company wanted to build a new bin north of the railroad tracks on 16th Street. However, a dilapidated, ugly storage shed was in the way. Luckily, the Matisons knew this long-ignored wooden structure began life as the 1880 train depot. And they contacted Tom Cranda and Ed Jipp with the BHPA to make them aware. Very quickly, BHPA worked with the city to move and relocate the building to Lions Club Park. Thanks to volunteers, it was placed on a new foundation, stabilized and painted, and then it sat, still looking pretty ugly. While we worked to secure funding and grants to renovate the historic depot and repurpose it as a gathering place for the public to enjoy. There were many depot doubters at the time. But finally, in July of 2013, the project was complete and a community celebration and ribbon cutting was held at the depot in the park. So that brings us to why we're here tonight. The city of Blair owns the depot as part of the park system, but the BHPA still feels some ownership, so we keep an eye on it. The depot has become very popular over these nearly 13 years. Brenda Wheeler told me it's rented out every weekend, year-round. Birthday parties, family reunions, and graduation parties have brought a lot of traffic through the old building. It's time for some upkeep and maintenance. Last week, John Stewart and I met with the park board and shared a list of maintenance issues that we have discussed with the Parks Department. And I think you got a copy of that list. It covers such tasks as painting exterior doors, trim and metal railings, another coat of waterproofing on the deck, replacement of downspouts on the south side. In addition, the ramp on the southeast corner needs to be relocated because the big oak tree roots are heaving up the existing ramp. Tables in the west room, the passenger side, were damaged by vandalism last year. The west room has become very popular for food serving, and the floor looks like it. We would like to see the floor refinished with a more durable finish that could be cleaned more easily, and we would like to replace the serving tables with new tables. At our February meeting, the BHPA voted to donate $5,000 to the city to kickstart needed maintenance and upkeep of the depot. Specifically, we would like our donation to go toward refinishing the floor in the west room and buying new serving tables. When we met with Phil Green, he suggested we also request Keno funds to at least match our $5,000 donation to address as many of the other maintenance issues as possible. So, we are officially making that request for Keno funds tonight, and we have a check for $5,000 to present to you, because we can think of no better way to celebrate BHPA's 25th anniversary than to get the depot spruced up for the public to continue to use and enjoy. And we thank you for listening. And I'll let John talk about the bid on the floor.
What do I bring to this? Well, just to echo what she said, I got a little history, but I'm not running for anything, so I'm sounding like Ben Hansen when he starts a speech. But my first contentious call was the brick streets, the second one was a depot, and they turned out well. It worked out okay. And once I got on the VHPA, the mission to try to save the depot, pretty heavily involved with Ed Jib at the time, and it was quite an ordeal. But that being said, we still feel some ownership. We want to give back as much as we can. We'd like a little bit of give back too, so we can help James and talk to James too about these things. The bid I got was from a local, what I consider a local, Washington County resident, Justin Hayes. He's worked around in town, and I met with him. I have some construction experience. We went over the floor on the west side. Don was there too. We kicked things around and whatever. I was real happy with his assessment. It was pretty much what I would have done if I would have had to tackle it, but I can't. I'm at that Ed Jib age now. But he's got an aggressive plan to get it done. We've got some days blocked out where he can get this done. Secure the floor too, because there will be a little bit of work done underneath. But having been involved with the original move, I had Kelly Ryan make some inspection boards underneath the crawl space, so it'll be readily accessible for him. And I offered to be his ground man. I can hand him tools or something, but we just feel this is worthwhile. I mean, not to belabor it anymore. We have a check for you folks, and we would appreciate a thumbs up for some Keno. Thanks to Betsy and the park board too, and we appreciated her comments. She said it's nice to see volunteers come forward like young Mr. Barrow. I appreciate that. I've seen some of those projects over the years sitting where you're sitting. It's important the youth do those things too. Other than that, I don't know if you got anything else, Bob.
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Council, do you have any questions for them? Thank you, great presentation. I love this. Item number 11, consider resolution 2026-21 to accept a $5,000 gift from VHBA, to approve their request for $5,000 in matching Keno funds for use at the depot, and to accept the recommendation from the Park, Recreation, and Cemetery Advisory Board to approve the scope of work and instruct staff to proceed with the bid for depot floor repairs and all their capital projects and improvements presented by the VHBA for the depot.
I'll introduce resolution number 2026-21.
Second.
Resolution
Oh,
number
sorry.
2026-21 was introduced by Councilmember Willis to accept a $5,000 gift from VHPA to approve their request for $5,000 in matching Keno funds for the use of the depot, and to accept the recommendation from the Park, Recreation, Cemetery Advisory Board to approve the scope of work and instruct staff to proceed with the bid for the depot floor repairs and other capital projects and improvements presented by VHPA for the depot.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-21. 23 is presented.
Second.
21 or 23?
It should be 21.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-21 is presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-21. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes.
Can't do a check me.
Item number 12, leave a presentation on the proposed water tower location and design. Mr. Heaton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Usually my tablet wants to stick to the main. Okay, we've made some progress on this water tower, so I'm happy to share this with you guys. So tonight, just so everybody knows, what we're asking council is just for the blessing to kind of keep working on this, keep continuing down the road we're headed down. We're not to the point yet where we have bids ready to go or accepting bids or anything like that. No, not awarding any contracts or anything, not spending any money tonight on the water tower. So just to kind of clear that up, I'm going to talk just for a couple quick seconds just on kind of the location of the water tower, and kind of how we're working on getting the property for it. And then I think everybody knows Chris King from HDR is the engineer on the project, and Justin Novak with the NRD rural water. We'll kind of talk about some of the impacts to the rural water system that this tower will provide. Snuck a slide in on you, Chris. Everybody's probably wondering where, so I'll go to the map first. Yeah. So I think everybody's familiar. Picture kind of cuts it off, but Walmart sits right up here off the picture. Woodhouse, Ford Garage, all the truck mountain. So Kelly Drive currently really only feeds the Cargill, the Cargill milling office right now.
Corn purchasing.
Corn purchasing, thank you. So there's a roundabout halfway up the hill if anybody's ever been up behind Casey's. And then currently right now, just a dead end stub street. After the last fall, we had some presentations about the water tower. The council was very clear to us staff that we wanted to find a spot that find a willing seller, willing landowner, somebody to work with. We've talked to several people between myself, Chris, and Justin, everybody in the county. I mean, we've searched high and low to meet that demand, that requirement. About that same time, we were approached by a developer that's interested in single-family homes on this parcel that's highlighted. I think there'll be a plat coming to the council in the next month. Estimated, plat right now is 138, I think, single-family homes. In talking to them, we said, would you be willing to sell us a couple of lots for a water tower? And if the council, I think, remembers, and Chris will talk about this, that we needed a spot high enough that this tower can work in parallel with the existing water tower. So we're kind of stuck in a limited window or kind of selection point that we couldn't just put it any place we felt like it. We needed a very specific site. This site, the top of the hill, is pretty close. I think this tower might end up being 20 feet taller when it's all said and done to get the bowls at the same height. We have not yet reached an agreement with the developer, the landowner, on exactly what the compensation will be for those lots. It'll probably be a combination of some direct purchase of lots, but then also some offset of some of their development fees, or more likely some of the infrastructure costs. So when the developments go in, all of the streets that will go through here, all the homes will need to be served by water, obviously. We'll be able to use the water main that will serve the tower as the water main for a good chunk of the development. So that'll end up helping the developer on some of their costs by not having to put in a main that we're already having to run. But yes, there'll be, you want a good shower, buy the house right here. So we're still kind of working through some of those things. That'll all get settled out in the next month. And then the developer comes in with the plat that will go, I think it's in April, to the planning commission and the council. I think there's anything else I want to cover. I don't want to take any of Chris's thunder here, so. I'll let Chris kind of go through the rest of his presentation, and then if we have any, and Justin talk a little bit, and then if we have any questions, we can, between the three of us, can get questions answered for you.
Good evening, Chris Koenig, HDR. Office is 1917 South 67th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. So, we're going to give kind of a background about why we're pursuing this. And again, it's been a long time coming. We've been working on this for quite a number of years. So one of the things that the city's been faced with is there's a big challenge with keeping that south elevated water tower full. And also the adjacent south ground storage reservoir. The ground storage reservoir, south ground storage reservoir, water is pumped into there and it's pulled out and pumped to the elevated water towers down 133. With the increasing demands of the city, but also with the addition of the lakeland that's being served by the city, is that it's very difficult for that tower to stay full all the time, especially during the hot summer months. One of the things that's also changed is a lot of people have irrigation sprinkler systems now, and those all turn on about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's the same time when the city is trying to push water into the tower to fill it up, and so it just becomes very challenging. Again, you got that just the demand increase is what's causing a big part of the problem. Just looking at the airport expansion, where again, that's looking at adding a lot of corporate hangars and looking at providing fire protection for them. Talked about the increased residential demand, and again, the city is growing, which is great. There's also additional industry that's coming into the city, besides Cargill. And then one of the other ones that kind of talk about a little more later is the Blackout Pump Station and the reservoir, the ground storage reservoir, which has limited usage. So the rural water system also, again, we looked at this as a whole, because the city of Blair and the Washington County Rural Water System, they operate in common. The city sells water to the Washington County Rural Water Systems, and they serves the north half of the rural water system. And the south half of the Washington County Rural Water System is supplied by water by MUD. So their challenge is they had the same thing, where they have one pump station that provides water from MUD to that south portion of it that also serves the city of Fort Calhoun. Those pumps are screaming during the summer, trying to keep up with demand. They just cannot keep up. And again, they don't have a water tower in that south portion, and so those pumps have to run all the time. Just because of the lack of capacity of the pump stations, and also from water from the city of Blair, the NRD has put a moratorium on development within Washington County. And so they can add homes, 1 or 2 homes as needed, but they cannot do another development. There's also the unserved area that's southeast of Blair, is the DeSoto area. That was always targeted as part of, we did the first phase back in 2005, we did the rural water system. We were always planning on working our way up and finishing that out. That hasn't happened yet, and I know personally people that I've talked with out there, they're short of water, their wells are going dry, and so, they're very anxious to get this move forward. In the city of Fort Calhoun, they're very limited because, again, they're served by that pump station that's off of, on 60th Street, sorry. And so they do not have a water tower, they used to have a sand pipe that's been decommissioned and removed, and so they're short on water as well. So going back some of the history on this, is back in 2016, we did a very comprehensive analysis of the city of Blair water system, looking with the planning year of 2035. And during that process, we developed essentially a program for the city. Okay, we need to here's the short-term needs, looked at your fire flow, pressure problems, small mains, pump station deficiency, and storage reservoir deficiency. And we kind of laid it all out, okay, here's the timeline when things need to happen. A lot of those have already been implemented, a lot of the looping of the mains to address the pressure shortage, the pressure issues. And interestingly, one of the recommendations was that a new water tower, a new pump station would be online in 2026. And so that kind of came to fruition itself. In 2024, we updated the plan. And part of that was, again, there's both the rural water systems were growing pretty fast. And so we had water tower shortage, elevated water shortages, but also pump station shortages. But then the city also said we want to take a hard look again at the Blackout pump station. The original plan for 2016 was to decommission the Blackout pump station and the reservoir, not use those anymore, build an intermediate water tower at the south reservoir site, and then create a new system. And they said, well, that doesn't really make sense because we want to expand the city of Blair to the northwest as well, and we need more storage capacity up there as well. And so we took a second hard look at that, and so what are our recommendations are to upgrade the Blackout pump station and expand the service area. Again, you have a 1 million gallon ground storage reservoir that seems limited use, and so you do have a problem with water age because it doesn't get a lot of turnover. And we also revised the pressure area boundaries. I'm going to go through that in a little bit more detail. Then add a new 1 million gallon elevated storage reservoir, or at least those, again, the same size as the one that we have on 133, also at the same elevation, and then to serve that new reservoir, new pump station, which would be located on Highway 75. So this is where the pressure zones are right now. So the green area is what's served by the water treatment plant. The yellow area, that's the Blackout pump station. This area right here, this kind of purple area, that's being served by the elevated storage tower. That also then feeds down into the rural water system. And this area over here, this is, there's a 12-inch main that was built down to serve the OPPD power plant, and that's no longer part of the use at all. So you got a 12-inch main, a very valuable asset that's even hardly used. So our plan in 2016 was we were going to build a new water tower down here at the south pump station, and then make a new, this blue is going to be a pressure zone. And again, it would be a lower pressure zone than the south reservoir that you have right now. But then looking at it with, in 24, we came up with a very different approach. Number one was the Blackout pump station, which is now, sorry for changing colors, but this is now the Blackout service area. So we increased the size of that service area, but then also adding a pump to it. The pump station is very old, it needed to be upgraded, so we're adding pumps. Right now, it only has 2 pumps in there. And to provide fire protection, both pumps have to be operational. So if one pump's out of service, it becomes very challenging to provide fire protection up in that area. And so that took care of that part of it. The second part was then to add another water to elevated storage tower in this area. And one is on 133 right now, so we just set this area up on top of this ridge. Well, what we're proposing is actually going to have 2 water towers. They're going to be 1 million gallon each, but they'll be operating at the same water level. So it's operating in tandem, going up and down, water level going up and down at the same time. But the really great part about it is that we'll also be having 2 pump stations serving the existing south pump station and a new one over off of Highway 75. The one off of Highway 75 is going to be pulling off a 12-inch main that is going to go down to the OPPD plant. It's going to be pulling off of that main and pushing water to that tower. And what that does is it gives you a very strong, redundant, robust system. Because if you have like during high demand usage, both pump stations can be operating at the same time, pushing water into it, so pulling from different parts of the system. But during normal periods when it's not not much water usage, the city's gonna alternate those pump stations. So the pump stations, you're gonna have longer life on the pump stations, but you have the capacity there if you need it. The other part of it is if one pump station goes down, and Justin will attest to this, with a pump station that he has on South 60th Street got struck by lightning, fried the controls. That pump station was out of service. Now, fortunately, we have the interconnect between the two systems, and City of Blair was able to provide water to the rest of the rural water system. But if that hadn't been there, it would have been a world of hurt to try to provide water to the residents. But this way, you have a very robust system going forward. And then part of it was also with the expansion is then this allows for the expansion of the rural water system down here. Then we're also going to go one step further. Is we're going to pick up the city of Fort Calhoun. So the city of Fort Calhoun will be served by the city of Blair. And again, that's going to be more water sales for the city. And then we're also going to be able to use this 12-inch main that used to go down to OPPD. That's also going to be used to serve the rural system. So again, it's kind of, again, working together as a team, we come up with an idea we think is benefits everybody. Oops. So for the city of Blair, is number one is the elevated, there is a shortfall for capacity for storage. And so this proposed water tower does address that. And then this also allows for them continued expansion, because right now, you have to have water for the industries and residential expansion, and if you don't have, so it's very critical that we have that, so these projects will keep allowing that to move forward. Again, we talked about the redundant pump stations, extend service life, increase water sales for the rural water system, allow for that development to continue, and then also Highway 75, that 12-inch main, now that also is a better usage for that for development in that area. Blackout pump station is going to have higher turnover, but also be able to serve more development going to the northwest of the city of Blair as well. And so the rural water system, of course, they benefit as well. The big one is that they're going to take that load off of system number 1. They're taking Fort Calhoun off and moving that on to be supplied to the city of Blair. That helps them tremendously with their pump station. It's not going to be overworked, and they can allow for some more development in that area. But then they can also have the development in the unserved area as well. Fort Calhoun, right now, again, they were being served by a pump station, a single pump station for their fire protection, and there was that system that was over demand, and so it became very nervous. We were a little bit nervous as far as for fire protection. By having Fort Calhoun served by essentially 2 elevated storage reservoirs, that becomes a very great benefit for them, and also allows for them to move forward with any planned developments as well. And again, another part is the time Justin's going to talk about is the continued development within the rural system. One of the questions that came up during a lot of these discussions was what's more effective, using a pump or using a pump station just to maintain the water pressure in the system, or use the elevated storage tower. It all comes down to, most of it is just, you can do both, yes. You can definitely use a pump station to do it. But with the water tower, it is more efficient. You pump the water up, it sits there, and it's available for fire protection and for drinking usage. But if you don't, the pumps aren't running continuously. There's pumps, a couple hours a day, and the water gets up there, it's ready to go. Reliability during power outages. Again, with the pump stations, you have backup generators. I understand that. But like I talked about with the highway, the 60th Street pump station that got struck by lightning, that pump station's out of service. And so backup power isn't going to do you really any good. So again, you got that reliability. And the way the system is also set up, the way the Blair system is set up, is if the your water treatment plant goes down for any reason, is that the water tower could actually backfeed into the pressures, all the rest of the pressure zones. You have it set up that way. So again, it's a foresight of working with city staff to make sure that you do have a robust, reliable system. Reduce operating costs, and then finally, the sizing of the pump station itself is when you size for a system, you have to design for the peak hour and also fire protection. Fire protection is your big demand. And so like a rural water system, a lot of water mains are like 3-inch, 4-inch mains, because they don't provide fire protection. Whereas a city, the smallest pipe we put in a city is a 6-inch main, because you have to have a higher flow. And so by using an elevated storage tower, you're able to use smaller pumps and less cost. And so that I'll turn it over to Justin.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, council. Justin Novak, project manager for the PAPURD 1060 Wilbur Street in Blair. I'd like to kind of reiterate what Chris was just talking about with kind of the symbiotic relationship that we have with the city of Blair. You know, it's for a little over 25 years now, well not 20, a little over 20 years, excuse me. We've been working together as a rural water system as a city, along with the city. And it's worked out very, very well. You know, throughout the years, having that interconnect with the system, number one, has allowed us, you know, a couple years ago, we were having a lot of issues with the treatment plant that was going down and having trouble filling the tower. We were able to open up our interconnect to help subsidize some of that flow. And so, you know, I worked with Mark Hodson really well with those guys, who've done a fantastic job. So I think, you know, it's that, like Chris talked about, it's a relationship that we have together to kind of serve our communities and kind of turn it in almost to a regional water system. I think that's what you're starting to see with a lot of these smaller communities. It's hard to have, you know, the treatment that's necessary to provide, like Fort Calhoun. You know, that's why they came and hooked onto the rural water system in 1980, because they weren't able to provide that adequate source of water. And so, as Washington County has continued to grow tremendously in the last 10 years, it's actually kind of exceeded our growth expectations with our rural water systems. And so, as we look at what are we going to do to continue moving forward for more development in the Washington County, Fort Calhoun, and the city of Blair. And so I've actually given presentations for the council down in Fort Calhoun and received their support for this project. Also gave presentations with the county supervisors and received support for this project. Not fiscally, but at least just to support. So, which is all, you know, it's all you could ask for at this point. So, you know, one thing is I talked about that relationship with the city of Blair and the fire protection. Fort Calhoun does not have that right now. So if there is a massive fire in Fort Calhoun, they open up too many hydrants, we have extreme pressure loss, they're not able to fight that fire adequately. With this new system, we have the new 12-inch main, we'll loop them back in on the south end, then they'll actually have adequate fire flow for the community. Another thing is, you know, as we talk about fire protection, the City of Blair Airport, or the Blair Airport expansion. You know, you guys are, you know, obviously going out for bids here for new runway, a lot of new hangars, a lot of things going on down there. But with a lot of these new larger planes and things like that, they're going to want fire protection within those airport hangars. And so, working with Phil and CJ on this, we're looking at actually the rural water system running a 12-inch main down Highway 133 from our existing main to provide that fire protection for the airport. Obviously, that's a very expensive water main we're looking at that runs to nowhere, essentially, except to provide fire protection. And so, you know, that's kind of that relationship we have. You wouldn't be able to provide that level of fire protection at your airport without us to help kind of do that. So it kind of goes both ways on the things that we can provide for you and the things that you provide for us. I think, you know, this is a very good project. I think with where, you know, CJ's been working hard on getting a new tower location. Hopefully that works out. I think that would be more than, I think all the constituents of City of Blair would be more than happy with that location. I think the council would be as well. You know, I think the developer's been pretty willingly so far. You know, until a purchase agreement signed, nothing's ever done. But I think things are, I know this is an important project for, you know, as you look at the continued growth of the City of Blair, Washington County, you know, and every other community between here and Omaha. So I think this is heading in the right direction. So I just wanted to come give you a little bit of information as far as what we are looking at in a rural water system. Like he said, we're in a moratorium on new developments. We're allowing existing single-family homes or maybe a new home that's built along the main in a 10-acre parcel. But we have had quite a few developers that want to develop 80 acres into, you know, 30 parcels that are 2 acres. Well, those are actually your largest water users because they'll use 150,000 gallons a month. And so that's a large demand on our system, which, as Chris can attest, in 2005, that's not how we designed it. So, but that's kind of where we're at with our system. Obviously, we've had support from our board as well, is very supportive of this project since the very beginning. So there's going to be no issues with that. I don't foresee. And so management, myself. So I think this is a good thing moving forward. And So I hope you guys continue to support the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to throw anybody into the spotlight, but Mike, did you want to add anything on any industrial benefits from this or not?
I'm on the spot.
Yeah.
On the spot.
We counted a little bit.
This would, Mike Rooks, Gateway Development, 11961 South 113th Avenue, Papillion, Nebraska. This secondary waters tower would definitely help the industrial side of Washington County. Right now, we are looking for more industrial spots, and with that, some of the spots we're looking at are in the areas that do not have fire suppression right now. I have several projects going right now, small 4 or 5 acre developments, and they need a 6-inch water line for fire suppression. You know, without this additional tower, we will not have that capability. Also, when you start talking about going down to the airport, that opens up a lot of things for residential and commercial and industrial. Those are all things we're looking for, because without the houses, we can't keep bringing in new industrial developments. So Gateway Development is in full support of this project. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think there's anything else to add. I'll just open it up if you guys have any questions for
Does council have any
any of us.
questions?
CJ, I gotta tell you though, if this goes through, I'm gonna be really highly relieved. And I think there's probably a few others on the council that feel the same way. That if this location turns out to be amicable with the developer, and looks like it is with our plans, that's a fantastic solution. So
I think
thank you very much.
I feel very confident right now that it'll go through. He said that it's beneficial to the developer also sharing kind of that infrastructure cost and things like that. So I think I don't see any issues.
Well, thank you for continuing to work with it. I appreciate it.
Chris and Justin have been
Thank
in
you.
it with me, so.
Thank you.
Item number 13, consideration of and possible action to authorize staff to proceed with plans for the development of a second water tower in Blair. Before we open it to council discussion, do we have any comments from the public?
It sounds pretty, John Stewart again, right up. It sounds pretty positive, and Chris, I was on in 2005, so I appreciate your overview of how things have progressed. I just hope you guys would support this. I don't want to tell Frank how old he is, but back at the depot when I lived across the street there, it was gravel. Yeah, those days were great, but moving forward, you need a project like this to do that development unless you want to shut down everything. And I just don't think that's reasonable. So hope you all support it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Having none, Water and Sewer Committee.
Yeah, we did meet on this. You know, obviously this is a hot topic, right? I commend you know, CJ, and, you know, Chris. I think we found a good location. You know, I mean, obviously we don't want to. We've heard passionate testimony here, you know, in the past. So I think everything's lined up. So there's no question. I'd like to make a motion to authorize staff to proceed with plans for the development of the second water tower in Blair. Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize staff to proceed with plans for the development of a second water tower in Blair.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 14, consider resolution 2026-22 to accept and approve a bid for the Black Elk Pump Station project pending SRF funding. Mr. Eaton.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and place on file the bids for the Black Elk Pump Station improvements.
We have a motion and a second to receive and place on file the bids for the Black Elk Pump Station improvements. Please register your vote. Now, Mr.
Thank you, Mayor. So as Chris kind of alluded to earlier, the Blackout Pump Station, I think there might be a slide here. I think it's crappy. Get that drawing. We're all done, go home.
Did you have a slide?
Yeah, there was one.
Okay.
Thanks. Technical difficulties. So as Chris kind of mentioned earlier about the Blackout Pump Station, redistributing, reallocating the pressure zones, and the Blackout Station is kind of the first step in that kind of three-phase process. So a couple months ago, I think council had authorized staff to go out for bids. We did get 2 bids back, one from Erickson Construction and one from Crossland. The engineer's estimate for this project, again, this is to install another pump. There'll be electrical improvements, new VFDs, which kind of help monitor the pump speeds and how efficient they are. There'll be a backup generator added to this, so this pump station will have some redundancy itself built into it. Like Chris said, this will allow us to use that 1 million gallon tank that's up there at Black Elk and make better use of that water and get it turning over more. But the estimate was just over $1.2 million. Erickson's bid was the low bid at $845,350, and Crossland was $996,000. I believe in your Spark packets is the letter of recommendation from HDR to recommend the bid go to Erickson Construction. And as the action item said, it's dependent on SRF funding. We are very close to having that all secured. We've used SRF funding for several of our infrastructure projects. For any council or audience that doesn't know, that state revolving loan funds. So those monies are available through the state. The interest rate is 0.75%, I believe, right now, and then there's a 0.75% administrative fee. So it's like a 1.5, or maybe it's 1.25%. It's very low interest for the amount of money we're getting. You can't go to a bank and get money that way. But the money that we borrow and then those payments we make basically replenishes that fund, and other towns borrow if they can, and it just keeps the fund constantly churning for very specific projects. And we've been approved. We have everything ready to go, but to get everything finalized and closed out, we have to have our audit from this previous fiscal year done, which is audits take, there's a lot of stuff to go through, so it's taking a little longer than we had anticipated. But we have an April 5th deadline to approve a bid, or the bids basically expire and we have to start over again. So we're asking for approval pending that SRF funding to award that to Erickson. I talked to Erickson Construction, and they're aware of the situation, but we will not give them the notice to proceed, expend any funds, or purchase anything until we end up for sure having a funding mechanism in place. Questions?
Good plan.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any comments from the public? Having none, Water and Sewer Committee.
Yeah, we did meet on this. Obviously, we had talked about this before. This was part of our phases of the water treatment. Going with Erickson, obviously local. So I think if there's no questions, I'll make a motion, or I'll introduce resolution 2026-22.
Resolution number 2026-22 was introduced by Councilmember Letchford to accept and approve a bid for the Black Elk Pump Station project pending SRF.
Motion to adopt resolution 2026-22 is presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-22. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 15, consider resolution 2026-23 to approve an engineering agreement with Houston Engineering for the
remembers the torrential downpours we had in August of 2025. We had several areas in town where we had significant stream bank creek erosion, washout damage. The biggest one was the Cobble Creek area that's behind Good Shepherd. I think everybody probably walked back through there before. If you've been back there since the storm, you've seen the barricades and the cones up to keep people out of the way. Thanks, Aaron. So it's this segment where the trail curves. I think what happened, we just had so much rain in such a little time. It backed up, saturated the footing of the retaining wall, and then when the water went back down, it took the retaining wall out with it. Staff has been working diligently, and I'll give Jake Dunn a bunch of credit for this, working with FEMA to help us get some money to help pay for all this stuff. There are some more minor areas that we have washouts that unfortunately were eroding some of our sanitary lines, so we did some emergency repairs to get those fixed. Hopefully FEMA, it sounds like will cover, I think 75% of those. There's a chance that the state might cover a portion of the remaining 25%. The city may have a portion of that 25% also. And that would be the same for this Cobble Creek work also. But this is more significant. FEMA had asked for us to do some engineering work. It's going to be a bigger project. We wanted to make sure we didn't have any interference with the Corps of Engineers or any other issues like that. So we reached out to Houston Engineering, and they gave us an estimate for the scope to do the engineering work of $44,631. And there'll be kind of two parts to this. So FEMA, when you go for FEMA dollars, they want to know how much does it cost to put it back. So the way it was the day before the storm, essentially, and how much to put it back better to mitigate. So that is what's in Houston's scope there. So this is just the engineering portion at this time. So once they get done, then we'll have an idea what it's going to take to put it back to the day before or make it better. I think even meeting with FEMA, they understand that putting it back to the way it was before is probably not likely, just because the damage that was done to that bank. And anybody that looks at it knows we need to fix this better than it was before. But once we get that engineering done, then we can go back to FEMA with the best plan to fix it and get some money to help put the retaining wall back. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any comments from the public? Having none, Water and Sewer Committee, you've been busy.
James and I must have been the only ones that had committee meetings. Yes, we did meet and discuss this. It sounds like a much needed fix. I've walked that trail, ridden my bicycle along there, and yeah, it's pretty nasty. So we need to get that fixed, or there's going to be some structural damage maybe coming along the way. So I would like to make a motion or introduce resolution number 2026-23.
Resolution number 2026-23 is introduced by Councilmember Paulson to approve an engineering agreement with Houston Engineering for the Cobble Creek Trail repairs.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2026-23 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-23. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 16, consider resolution 2026-24 to approve an agreement with Olson Associates for a wastewater treatment plant capacity study. Mr. Key.
Thank you, Mayor. So if council remembers, a little over a year ago, we engaged with Olson to do a sewer model study of the collection system of all the sewer mains and lines that are running back to the plant, just to make sure that as we're growing, that we can capture all the sanitary sewer that we need to capture. And a small part of that study was a desktop review, essentially the wastewater plant, to just do kind of of a very quick overview of the plant's capacity. And that report showed that a couple times in the last few years, we have exceeded the capacity of the wastewater plant, both in terms of volume of how much material is coming to the plant, but also the potency that's going into the plant. And so Olson has put together a proposal.
You're laughing.
Well,
That's a nice
yeah,
way.
there's two, you got volume and then the strength of the volume. So, it's important to differentiate the two. And so, yeah, kind of working with Olson, they proposed, okay, let's take a more specific, deeper dive at the wastewater plant. We all know there's a lot, potential for a lot of new development additions to Blair, annexations. The city, we already are taking Fort Calhoun's sanitary waste. We take Kennard's. So as we continue to grow, just like a regional water, we're becoming more of a regional sanitary service also. The study would basically then look at the volume capacity and the strength capacity over the next 20 years. So they're also going to work, at the next meeting, we're going to talk about our comprehensive plan. They'll work with whoever is chosen to do that to make sure that those concepts are kind of baked into this plan at the sanitary plant, wastewater plant, to make sure that what we're planning and looking at doing at the wastewater plant matches the growth that we anticipate, so that we don't end up in a situation where we don't expand the plant, or we don't have plans to think of expanding the plant, and we get another 500 houses in or something to that effect. And so Olson would take a very holistic approach, I guess, to look at everything at this plant to make sure that not only the physical capacity is there, that we have enough volume, enough trains, if you will, but also are there new technologies that we could use to better treat the waste. Another issue that we're starting to see is it's a fun conversation for this hour of the evening, but the waste, it gets separated, the solids and the liquids get treated and returned back to the river, all per state guidelines. And the solids are then hauled by a contractor, SNS Pumping, to several fields in Iowa where it's land applied as fertilizer. And that is all done again through, EPA state regulations. However, just I think the idea of the land applying of sanitary waste has upset some of the neighbors of the farmers we rent from. And so, in order to keep them happy, they're running to raise their rent prices so we can continue to land apply. One of the things that we've asked Olson to look at then is if we lose those farms, we don't have that option anymore, how do we handle that waste that we can't simply just put back in the river? And so then we get into talking about things like with drying lagoons or possibly dewatering systems. So think of a giant compost bin that you put your yard clippings and things in. It dries that and turns it into basically like potting soil. And actually the city of Omaha, if you've ever gone to Romaine and bought a bag of Omagrow, that's what that is. They mix that with sludge waste from the sanitary facilities and wood chips and grass clippings and all that, and people buy it by the bag full. So all of that kind of ties into this plan of how we're going to treat our sanitary plant over the next 20 years. Olson's estimated cost for this is $241,200. I know that's a big number, and we have funds this year in the engineering and professional service line in the wastewater budget. So if approved, it'd probably be a couple months before they got started, but we would spend down some of those funds out of this fiscal year and then budget accordingly for the next fiscal year. This process will take at least a year for them to do the complete study, do all the draft reports,
CJ, two other things maybe could you mention real quick? Long-term capital costs for the current equipment that we've got at the plant. That was part of their long-term study. And then just some preliminary concepts on future growth and development.
Is, like things that are possibly coming, that would.
Well, I mean, that their plan is going to be looking at that in light of our comprehensive plan and the numbers that we, put together through that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, Phil mentioned, what was the first thing, Phil? Sorry.
The capital cost for the equipment that's there right now.
Part of that is, it's a capital improvement cost for the plant. So they will look at the age of the equipment we have now, the various pumps, the various equipment. There's bar screens, there's aerators, all sorts of things that have been put in. The plant was built, I believe in 79, 1980, somewhere in there. There's been no real drastic improvements to that in 45 years. So I think everybody's aware of the water treatment plant and the wastewater plant. The wastewater plant is just this small little portion. If you drive down Fairview Road down to the river, the rest of that is all water plant. All of that real estate in the berm, which we're running out of, is spoken for by the potential phase 6 of the water plant if and when we get to that point. Probably more if than when. What we've asked Olson to look at also is what options do we have? Where do we go if we do need to expand? Is that doing something outside the berm? Does the city need to look at eventually maybe purchasing some of that ground that's out on the bottom? Because as we anticipate more growth, as Mike has come and talked to the council plenty of times, there's a lot of potential for industrial growth. And industrial waste is where we get into some of that high strength waste that I mentioned, and that requires an entirely different treatment process. So right now, we've either told people, sorry, we can't handle that, or you're gonna have to spend money to pre-treat that waste before we get it. So one of the things that Olson will look at in this is, do we enhance our current plant to handle that? Do we add our own city industrial facility? Or is it something similar to how we do our water contract with Cargill, where if we get a big and new industrial development that has some high strength waste, could we build that plant kind of specifically for them, build them accordingly, rather than those companies having to build their own? So again, they're going to take a really deep dive and kind of a wide breadth look at all of our sanitary stuff at the facility.
Any questions for Mr. Keegan? That's a big chunk of change.
Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
You're pretty expensive, so.
I know. I'm not going to do too bad.
He's getting us back to last week. I'm gonna come up and send a check to you.
I know, where's my check? Any other questions? Any comments from the public? Water and sewer, maybe you're up.
We did meet on this, and we kind of grilled CJ on it, on the cost and that, and he did explain it very well, that it wouldn't be a lump sum needed all at once, that it could be part of it paid this year and into the budget for next year, which I thought was a very good way to look at it. Like he said, that looking at that video, or the graphic of the water treatment plant and the sewer plant, it does limit what we can take in as industry or future growth. So I think it's something that's much needed to kind of tell us what we're going to need, future costs, repairs, things like that. So I would like to introduce resolution number 2026-24.
Resolution number 2026-24 was introduced by Councilmember Paulson to approve an agreement with Olson Associates for a wastewater treatment plant capacity study.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2026-24 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2026-24. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. I know everyone's put in a long night already, so I will try to keep this as short as possible, but there are several important things to mention tonight. A lot of activities going on. Tonight is a special and somewhat sad night for us as well, because this is the last council meeting that we're going to have Katie Ferrari with us. As you know, she's submitted her resignation as our legal assistant. So Katie, thank you very much for the great effort that you put on for us, not only the work that you've done, not only the work that you've done, but you've been a great friend, you've been a great co-worker, and we appreciate everything that you've been doing. I'll let you know, as a council, we're not planning to immediately replace her position. So probably at the next council meeting, I'll have an update for you to let you know kind of what we're looking at doing. Number one, I haven't had a lot of time to talk with our city attorney yet, at Talbot, and chat with him a little bit. We've talked with several of the committees about the need in the front office for some additional office help. This may be a time for us to kind of reevaluate where's the most important areas to focus on for these next few months. Obviously, we have a new budget then process coming up over these next 6 months. So all of that's going to get kind of incorporated a little bit. So we'll have more to share with you next month. There's a possibility too that, because Katie's going to be staying in the area, that we may contract with her for a few things, especially for some of the projects that she's been working on with us and trying to coordinate some of the activities here in town. So, but again, Katie, thank you very much. Hopefully, all of you saw on social media last week that the City of Blair employees were able to help with delivering over 180 hay bales donated by an area resident to ranchers and farmers that were affected by the fires out in central Nebraska. So I personally just want to say thank you to our employees who helped out, not only loading things, but then transferring things out. Mayor, thank you. Thank you for the council for the support that you have for us to be able to do those kinds of things and demonstrate our support for our fellow Nebraskans. So thank you for that. Next Tuesday night is going to be a very, very important night for the City of Blair. So obviously all of you I expect to see here. Planning Commission has been invited as well, and citizens are invited to come next Tuesday night, which is a 5th Tuesday, and it's the special meeting where we will be interviewing or watching presentations from the 3 finalists for the comprehensive plan process that we're undergoing. So 3 great, excellent firms that I'm really looking forward to their presentations. There'll be basically 30 minutes of a presentation, 15 minutes then for questions and answers, questions from you. There'll probably be some questions from staff. And again, this is a public meeting, and so citizens are invited and encouraged to come. You have an opportunity as well during that 15 minutes to ask any questions that you may have of these individuals. No determinations, though, will be made next Tuesday night. The actual decision on which of those 3 firms to be selected is going to be delayed until April 14th at the next council meeting, or next full regular council meeting. At that night, on the 14th of April, citizens will have an opportunity as well to get up and explain to you what maybe their opinions are on which of those 3 firms they think are most deserving to be selected. And then you'll have an opportunity that night to discuss it with staff, and then make that ultimate final determination. But probably one of the most important decisions that I think you'll be making for the next at least several years, if not even a decade or more. These comprehensive plans are critical for us as we move forward. Just a reminder that next week's meeting begins at 6 o'clock. So it's an hour earlier than normal, and we did that purposely because with 3 firms, we'll have a whole hour for each of them for their presentation questions, and then a breakdown period for them to set up anything, get handouts ready to go, things like that. So we'll go till 9 o'clock next week, but encourage everyone to be there. Then finally, as you know, the development of new housing has been an area of emphasis over the last 2 years. We've been working hard behind the scenes. Staff has been working hard. Appreciate the good partnership that we have with Gateway Developments and the Chamber. So all of us together have been talking to different entities about that. You will see next month a new preliminary plat and a replat coming forward to you for additional housing we're excited about what's happening at Blair Crossing, but there's more things that are going to be coming. And I want you to know, or just let you know of a couple things that are happening down at the state legislature that will probably also impact the emphasis for housing for us. So, as you are probably aware, there was a bill that was introduced this year that we had an opportunity to kind of help sponsor and kick off. In fact, I had a chance to go down and testify before the Urban Affairs Committee on Community Improvement Districts, so they're called CIDs, which is basically an SID, Sanitary Improvement District, but sanitary improvement districts under the current state statute can only exist outside city limits. That just doesn't work well for a city like Blair, where having them inside the city limits and having those developments paying local city property tax is really, really important for us, not just any kind of retail benefit that we can get from shopping here in town. Well, that CID bill was fully supported by the committee, but because this is a short session at the legislature, oftentimes you begin to run out of time. And so what they end up doing is, if they're open to it, they'll have amendments come forward and they'll suck several bills together all into one big, larger bill. And so the bill that this CID was a part of was incorporated into 1114, so LB 1114, which is the overarching kind of housing bill that's down there. Glad to say that it was unanimously approved for the first round of voting last Friday. That unanimous approval is really, really important because I think it begins to show that there really isn't any opposition to this at all. So the expectation is that it'll pass second round, hopefully this week, and then final reading would be the following week. This CID provision does have an emergency clause with it, which is just a special statement in there. But what the emergency clause allows is as soon as the governor signs it, it becomes effective. Otherwise, with state statute, there's usually a 3-month delay before they can actually do it. We have developers queued up, ready to go, waiting for this bill to pass so that they can do development here in Blair. So very, very excited about that. And another thing that was incorporated into 1114 is an expansion of the inland port authorities. So as we've talked with you before, current state statute only allows 5 inland port authorities. When we submitted our application, we literally were told we were half an hour behind another application, which ended up getting the 5th spot of the 5 that are currently statutorily allowed. There's an amendment in this current bill then that would increase that number allowed in the state from 5 to 8. And so if that's done, you better know for sure that we're going to be there knocking on their door, reminding them that we've already submitted, that we were kind of number 6 in line, and we fully anticipate to be excuse me, to able to get that inland port authority designation, which again I think will be super important for us as well. For the industrial areas, it probably will play a role in a future northern bypass and what some of the all of the public improvements are going to have to be done in that particular area on East Highway 30. So lots of important things that are going on, lots of development that's potentially at the door. Super excited, and I will answer any questions that you have.
One quick one. Is it possible to get the presentations from those 3 contractors, I guess you call them, the comprehensive plans before so we can read them?
I have them queued up to go, I'll be putting their agenda.
So we will get them,
And
okay.
Karen gave them to me.
Oh, okay, so we've
I
got
didn't know
something
if there's
from
something
them.
that they tweak until the day of, or.
Well, their original proposal, or their presentation they'll make that night,
Yeah, the presentation.
that they'll make that night.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten those yet, right?
No, we haven't.
We've asked to get those at least 3 days ahead of time.
Okay.
So as soon as we have them available,
That would be
we'll,
great.
we'll let you all know.
It'll help
Yeah.
us develop questions.
Okay, yeah.
I do
And-
plan on putting out an agenda though.
And I will remind the citizens as well, we got 9 or 8? 9. We received originally 9, basically statements of qualifications from them on why they felt like, they wanted to present this. We whittled that down to the 3, but all 9 of them are available for the public to see out on the city's website. So if you simply go to the city's website, search for comprehensive plan, you can see all 9 of them. I don't know, did we update on the website the 3 that got selected? So we'll try to get that done right away, just so that people can know. But again, we want this to be as open of a public process as possible, because it is a huge, huge project for the city. So thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, did you say on the housing thing that that's gonna be next week as well?
Next month.
Next month, okay.
Yeah.
Next week's busy enough, so.
Well, yeah, April's gonna be busy, so April has a replat for where that water tower lot is gonna go. That development will be coming forward. We have another location where it'll be a preliminary plat, because it's not been platted before. That lot had been platted, so they can just do a replat. So, again, very excited about that and other activities that are in the works. Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you.
I propose a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Blair City Council.
We have a motion and a second.